Welcome back to my channel, sports fans. Okay, let's get into this one right here. Who's the greatest of all time? Well, when I say that, it might not be what you think, right? Ignore what you see on the screen. We'll talk about that later. But what I'm talking about is, does it really matter? When do we ever talk about this stuff? Really, before the 210s, right? And here we are now, arguing about the Olympic basketball team, and we're cutting down our own Olympic basketball team. This is sad. And I've been making a couple videos about this, but it's just pretty sad that us as Americans now have to fight and degrade our own country in the Olympics in basketball. Are they doing that in soccer? Are they doing that in hockey? Are they doing that in, I don't know, gymnastics? What other sport are they doing that in? But we're doing that in basketball, and now we're doing that to the Olympic team because this all originated from the NBA. And the LeBron fans or this era fans might think that, you know, oh, those are Jordan fans, those are 90s fans, those are 80 fans, always hating. Look, man, what other team did they compare to the Dream Team when they were playing? Was it in the last Olympics? The Olympics before that? What is it? It seems like this came about because why? Because we're sitting up there and they're making excuses and laying the foundation for this team's failures. They're comparing this team to the 92 Olympic team. Why? So we'll fuss and fight. They do this stuff with no proof at all. They haven't even played the entire Olympics and they're making comparisons. Or, look, you can make comparisons. That's fine. But to say this team is greater than the 92 Dream Team is just hogwash. And we get offended. And this is all coming from the LeBron era. Guys, the media. And we don't have real basketball players that say, hey, don't ever compare us to that Dream Team. What they did was incredible. That talent that they put together was incredible. We haven't got the job done. And we could never play them. So don't compare those special guys to us. We're doing our own special thing. That should be the talk. Let these guys go out and do something special instead of putting them against other eras. And when I was growing up, and they never compared the 80s to the 70s or the 70s to the 60s or the 90s to the 80s or the 2000s to the 90s. They just never did that. Because you're not playing those guys in those eras. You're playing under different rules and everything like that. We really didn't start hearing this stuff until when? Well, until LeBron got blew out in 2018. We heard it a little earlier when Nick Wright came on. I think he was on, what was he on? Undisputed? I think, what was it that show? Was Shannon, I think Shannon Sharp was on there originally, was it? I don't know. I saw him on Undisputed one time. And when LeBron won a 16 ring, he goes, he already passed Jordan. That's really the first time we ever heard that. And it sounded so insane for a person. He should have never been on TV again. To be 3-4 in the finals and have all kind of meltdowns in the finals, get blown out in the finals, only have one type of game, and that's dunks and layups. This guy should have been off the air for all time. And then he got curb stomped 2 series in a row. Right? Where in 18, they even say he quit on his team. Wow. Wow. I mean, they've taken a lot of stuff off of ESPN. I was trying to find that clip where Stephen A. Smith even said he don't respect LeBron for quitting on his team. He didn't say he don't like him no more, nothing like that, because he was the first one to come on First Take with the rise of Clutch Sports and be this LeBron apologist, right? So we can never compare eras. And I never compare eras. Okay? What we do is, or what I do is, I see what these guys did in their era. And then I pull the guys out that I want to pull out of those eras. And then I put them in my top 5. That's on me. And I have a criteria. championships, MVPs, finals MVPs, statistical titles, and defensive player of the year. And people say, oh man, they didn't have finals MVP and defensive player of the year back in such and such. But the guys that I pulled out of those eras that they didn't have those type of awards, it didn't matter. They were still that great to overcome that and be in my top 5. That's how great they was. They didn't need those. They didn't need those. Well, it would be great to have them, but they didn't need those trophies to be in my top 5. That's how great they were. In my top 5, you can rearrange them. And most people know my top 5. Michael Jordan, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russell, and Magic. Did I say that right? Michael Jordan, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Russell, and Magic. And to me, they were so great, you can rearrange them and put them wherever you want to put them. To me, those guys were the greatest of their era based on that criteria. Championships, statistical titles, MVPs, finals MVP, and defensive player of the year. These are the guys that were in that era where when we said these guys are the greatest of those eras, we didn't say what? We didn't say, oh man, they couldn't shoot the 3. Their competition was plumbers. They couldn't dribble right. They couldn't do this. Well, we only hear this now because of what LeBron couldn't do in all his shortcomings, right? They pretty much took the shortcut for him to being the greatest of all time or top 5 greatest of all time by talking about other people's eras and what they couldn't do in their era. Now, if you want to put LeBron James first and pull him out of whatever era you're pulling him out of, the 210s, that's fine with me. But you're going to need to prove to me with his defensive players of the year, his statistical titles, his finals MVPs, his MVPs, that he was that great and that he was better than the guys who are on the screen right here and what they did in their era. Because if you're telling me that LeBron is the greatest in his era, well, it don't match the top 5 that I got on my screen, what they did in their era. It don't. And to me, what you're doing is you're lowering the bar. Because what these guys did, they had to be better or something similar to the guys that came before them as far as championships, finals MVPs, and statistical titles. That's what their drive was. Their drive wasn't longevity stats. Right? Their drive wasn't, okay, if I don't do this, I can just have the media talk for me and say, oh, that guy in that other era, he was playing against weak competition. He was playing against plumbers. He couldn't shoot the 3. He couldn't. No. Those guys didn't have that. They looked at you, either you were great in your era, based on you was competing against the greatness of other guys in their era and what they did, or you just wasn't better than them. And like I try to tell you guys, this is the era right here, starting with the LeBron era in the 210s, when this guy became a major failure, going 4-6 in the championship game, not winning an MVP in his 30s, not being a defensive team in his 30s, melting down a lot in his career. This will be the era where the media will come to your defense and tell you all this stuff that you're not seeing on the TV screen, right? It's not about what you see on the TV screen or on the court. It's about what you hear from the media. Also, these guys on the screen, they didn't need to be great for 15, 20 years because their greatness already happened in basically 13 seasons or less. They already surpassed the bar or equaled the bar of ex great players that are in the top 5 or top 10. They already came to that. They already passed that or went to that same level. They didn't need to play for 20 seasons. They already did their thing. So whoever you got as the greatest of all time, that's fine. I hope you got a criteria, because we've all heard the media's criteria. It's all over the place. But we've heard many of these criteria, right, for what makes Michael Jordan the greatest of all time, right? I mean, I could say a lot of things, but their criteria seems to be the same as my criteria. The 6 championships, undefeated, the 6 finals MVPs, the 5 MVPs, the 10 scoring titles, the 3 steals titles, and Defensive Player of the Year. Now, I could go on and on and on. That ain't just what makes Michael Jordan the greatest. You know, like the LeBron fans, they will say, oh, man, all you using is championships. No. Use way more than that. But the media seems to use the same criteria as me right here. What I got Michael Jordan ranked as number 1. But when you got to use that same criteria, because you can see what I do is the same criteria going down the line, right? When you put all those together, championships, finals MVPs, scoring titles, and Defensive Player of the Year, I use that same, and I add all those up, right? All those awards up. Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time. And Wilt Chamberlain's 2, Bill Russell is 3rd. No, Kareem is 3rd. Bill Russell is 4th, and Magic is 5th. But that same criteria that I use, they use that on Michael Jordan. Some of the people at ESPN, some of the people at Fox Sports. But when you get to number 2 with the people at Fox Sports and ESPN, they don't want to use that same criteria on the number 2 player. They're number 3, they're number 4, they're number 5. You can't do that, man. You can't do that. Championships don't make you the greatest player of all time, in my opinion. That's why I'm not using just championships. Finals MVPs and championships does not make you the greatest player of all time, and that's why I just don't use that, right? My criteria is straightforward, and I use it on all my top 5 guys. But for some reason, like I said, the same criteria that I use on Michael Jordan is used with ESPN and Fox Sports. But when they go to the number 2 and the number 3, the number 4, and the number 5, they don't use that same criteria. Why? Because they have to somehow put LeBron James in number 2 and go away from their criteria. This is career. The greatest player as far as career. Now, are we talking about one-on-one? No, we're not talking about one-on-one. Are we just talking about championships? No, because that's a team accomplishment. But these players led their team to these championships, right? So that's when you debunk the haters when they try to say, oh, man, you can't just use, I don't just use championships. And why I use statistical titles is because that shows your energy, your hustle, your positional skills, how good you were at your position in whatever you were trying to be first in, whether it was rebounds, blocks, steals, points. That shows how great you were at those things. Right? Because all these players in the league are trying to get that statistical title. And that's how it was all the way to me until the 2000s, where we had to stop that and stop. Oh, man, some statistical titles don't count. We could just play in the middle. We could just get 27, 7, and 7. Because it's easy now to get that. Easy to get the assist. Easy to get the rebound. Statistical titles were the ultimate goal back in the day. And some of these great players like Michael Jordan, Kareem, were getting 2 in one season. And even Wilt would have had 3 in one season if some of these statistical titles ever existed. And I'm going to hear something from the Kobe fans. How come Kobe ain't up there? Should have, could have, and would have. And if you say that Kobe was a better player than this player, how do you know? Did Kobe play the same position as Wilt? What about Kareem? What about Magic? What about Russell? And I broke this down before. Russell averaged 22 plus rebounds per game. What did he give you? 15, 18 points per game, 4 assists, and like 7 blocks. So at his position, well, at Kobe's position, he was no better than Russell at his position. And he was a leader of a team that was the best team of all time. Kareem. Okay, you can say ultimately he was a better scorer than Kareem, but that's up in the air for me. Kareem had the most unstoppable shot, was consistent, was a better rebounder, was a better blocker. He won 6 MVPs, 6 championships, 2 Finals MVPs. Wilt, yeah, he only got two titles, but who was winning in the 60s? They didn't have Finals MVPs really back then, but he did win 1. 4 MVPs. And you can't tell me defensively or offensively that Kobe was a better offensive player or defensive player than Wilt. When we get to Magic, 5 championships, 3 MVPs while he was playing with Kareem and Worthy. 3 Finals MVPs while he was playing with Kareem and Worthy. 2 steals titles, so he wasn't a slouch on defense. And the greatest floor general and passer of all time. Do we even need to go to Michael Jordan? I don't think we need to do that. Versus Kobe. Because in my opinion, Michael Jordan's career was better than all these guys. So nothing against Kobe. But to me, he could have had more awards. I don't know if he could have had more championships if he didn't play with Shaq. But that's just the way it is. That's the way I see it because I got a criteria. We can't say, oh, man, Kobe was a better player than this guy. They play different positions. The game ain't a one-on-one basketball tournament. I mean, you could say Russell. Maybe, Kobe was a better offensive player. Yes. But if I put Kobe in those same Converse shoes that Russell played in and play in the same style of no carrying, actual defense, because we do have to remember that Kobe did play in that same era where they outlawed defense in 2005 that LeBron played in. Right? So I'm not knocking Kobe. I done did many videos on Kobe Bryant, defending him and being on his side. But I think his career started too late. And if he wanted to be his own man from the start and say, look, man, I'm just going to the Hornets. I don't want to go to the Lakers. He could have did that and started and not went behind Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel. He could have started. It's the way it is. If you want to put Kobe in this top 5, fine. If you want to put Kobe top 1, that's fine. But I hope you really got a solid criteria. To me, a criteria isn't this guy beat more 50-win teams. It's not a criteria. I don't use, say, Jordan beat more 60-win teams. I don't use that criteria because Jordan ain't playing against those 60-win teams or those teams in the 60s, the 50s, the 70s, nothing like that. So I'll give him credit for that, but I don't use that criteria. I just don't like that. If you want to use, he was the greatest skilled player of all time, I just can't buy that when I look at how skilled these guys were on the screen at their positions and what they did to win these awards. Now, to me, Kobe was a great individual game scorer. But to me, for him to be the greatest scorer of all time, guess what? He's got to win more scoring titles. He went away from Shaq, and he should have led the league in scoring every single year. And I hear some stuff like, oh, man, he could have, man, but he wanted to win championships. Michael Jordan won how many scoring titles? 91, 92, 93. So he won 6 scoring titles by winning 6 championships and being the leading scorer on his team. So Michael Jordan didn't tone down his scoring to win championships. That's actually what he had to do to win championships because he didn't have these great scores on his team. Like people might think he had these great scores on his team. Scottie Pippen wasn't no great scorer. And I'm not trying to say that Kobe had great scores on his team, but what I'm saying is if he wanted to one up Michael Jordan or come close to it, he would have been winning more scoring titles. Michael Jordan wanted to one up who? Wilt Chamberlain. I'm going to win more scoring titles. Or the next guy who won more scoring titles than Wilt Chamberlain. And like I said, I'm not trying to knock Kobe. This ain't against Kobe. But he's just not in my top 5 when I look at career. And don't tell me who played with who. Magic played with Kareem. They won a three-peat. Him and Shaq playing against nobody, really. As far as, center dominance in the early 2000s. So, all that stuff like that, it just don't mean nothing to me. What means something to me is that we shouldn't be comparing eras. And this is what the LeBron guys have done to make us now fight about the damn Olympics. We should be cheering on the men's basketball team and saying, man, we can't wait until they blow this team out by 40. Can't wait till this team blows this team out by 30, 50 points. Because when we look at this team, that's what they should be doing. We shouldn't have to be like, oh, yeah, LeBron had 6 turnovers this game. Oh, KD had to save him and stuff like that. We shouldn't have to be saying these things. It's ludicrous. We shouldn't have to be. We should be cheering on our team. France ain't doing this with their team. Great Britain ain't doing this with their team. Canada ain't doing this with their team. And I can guarantee you, if LeBron was not on this team, our media would not be talking like this and making us go against our own team and criticizing our own team. Because we didn't do this in the last Olympics when Durant was on that team. Even though they barely won and Kevin Durant had to save them, we was not cutting down that team. We wasn't cutting down the team in 12, 8 or nothing like that. We was cheering our team on. But since now LeBron is a so-called leader, they done start to compare this team to the dream team. They done start to make excuses and lay the foundation. Basically, if they lose, that's the foundation you're laying. While these other teams have international teams have one superstar in a role player, or only have one superstar, or only have a role player. Come on, man. You got 8 superstars on this team, and you're claiming this team is better than who? The dream team. You're claiming that this era is the greatest of all time, so they should be way better than their competition, these superstars on this Olympic team. And we'll see what happens. I just think it's sad that we got to bash other eras. Not say who's the greatest. That's fine. Who's the best. But we got to bash other eras. Why another guy is good. And we start doing this because LeBron was supposed to be the greatest of his era, but he went and built super teams, failed, built super teams, failed. So the media start trashing other eras, thanks to Clutch Sports, paying the media off to do this. And it's the saddest thing you ever seen, man. And when this guy gets out of the league, maybe, the NBA gets back to the NBA in real competition. I'm not sure. I think this commissioner, for him doing this, he's the worst commissioner of all time. He's the worst. And it's not even close of any sports. Because I just couldn't even imagine doing this when I was growing up watching basketball. You got a favorite player, that's fine. You got a criteria, that's fine. But why cut down other eras to lift up your guy? It doesn't make any sense. And like I said, they're only doing this because all of his failures. You can't talk about all the Curry failures, all the Duncan's failures, all the Kobe's failures. It's just LeBron failures.